Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers Mafia Edition with your host Bang and Dang, or welcome to Outlaws and Gunslingers
Back or
Mafia Edition.
Either way,
with Bang and Dang. Welcome. After covering the Genovese crime family namesake Vito Genovese last week, we'll be covering one of his closest friends in the business and somebody who he often went to plan his murders for him. Mr. Anthony Strollo, also known as a guy, has a reputation for switching sides, which he did numerous times with all the way back with Masseria and Maranzano. Switch sides with those guys, and we'll see switching sides is what ultimately becomes his undoing, as Strollo was born in New York City. He was the son of Calabrian immigrants Leon and Giovannina Negro. Negro. I don't know how to say that in Italian, guys. Strollo grew up in Manhattan, near the Manhattan Bridge, and he had two brothers, Emilio and Dominic. He also married a woman named Edna Goldenberg, who bore him several children, apparently.
Strollo was a cousin of Pittsburgh's mobster Lenny Strollo and Dante Strollo, a member of the Youngstown, Ohio Cosa Nostra family. Dante was. And Lenny is part of Pittsburgh's family. Look at that, they're everywhere. But
Look at that. The old Strollos are strolling.
All right, Strollo was of medium height and weight with sandy brown hair. We call that dirty dishwater. Dirty dishwater brown.
Or sandy brown.
Or dirty dishwater blonde.
Right.
Associates described him as usually having a doleful look. During Prohibition, Strollo gained a formidable reputation as a bootlegger, as most people did, and he was also a hitman. In the early to mid-20s, Strollo worked for a gang boss called Giuseppe Joe the Boss Masseria. After the Castellammarese War, that began in 1931, Strollo defected to Masseria's rival, Salvatore Maranzano. Jeez, this guy just going with whoever got the power at that time. And he became a trusted lieutenant and a gunman.
Yeah. Well, following the death of Maranzano, Strollo joined the Luciano crime family, clearly. It was headed by boss Charles Lucky Luciano, clearly. Strollo became a capo for Luciano and underboss Vito Genovese.
Nice.
Genovese and Strollo became close friends, and Vito even stood as best man in Strollo's wedding. Good for him. Strollo assumed control of the Greenwich Village crew, operating illegal gambling in New York's Greenwich Village and Lower Manhattan District.
Sweet.
June 18, 1936, Luciano was sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison on pandering.
And he took off to Italy.
Right, got deported.
Right.
Which made the underboss, Vito Genovese, the acting boss. Then Genovese designated Strollo as his underboss.
Wow. Pissing
Costello way off.
Man, 1937, facing a probable murder indictment. Genovese ran through the halls of his hotel. I'm going to be indicted! Indicted! No, Genovese fled to Italy, telling Strollo to hold things together, bud. Genovese wanted Strollo to keep control of the family for him, but Genovese's rival, Frank Costello, he said, I'm going to take over as acting boss, and I'm going to designate Willie Moretti as my underboss, which did not go well with Strollo, but he did maintain a position in the family, but it was virtually with no power. He was also stripped of Greenwich rackets. Oh, dude, he must not like them. I wonder what the
Clearly, he didn't like Vito.
Huh?
He didn't like Vito.
Right, Costello didn't. Yeah, but still, he could have liked Strollo.
But clearly not.
Yeah, well, he stripped Strollo of his Greenwich rackets in 1946 after being extradited from Italy to the United States and escaping indictment. Genovese returned to the family as a capo with Strollo as his assistant.
Hey, look at that.
Strollo supervised Genovese's rackets in Greenwich Village, which he had once ran, and the New Jersey waterfront for the next 10 years.
Same. So Genovese came back and they got Strollo's racket. Strollo's like, hey, man. Genovese's like, you run it.
I still don't get, though. If Genovese was the acting boss, why would he not be the acting boss when he comes back?
Costello took power.
Yeah, but Lucky still has the overall power.
Clearly not. And I don't think Lucky even likes Vito, which we already know what happens with Vito and between them anyway. Right. During these 10 years as assistant to Genovese, Strollo was the mastermind behind several murders on behalf of Vito and his methodical march to taking the family from Costello.
Ooh.
Strollo successfully operated a string of Greenwich Village nightclubs, including the popular Black Cat, the Hollywood, the 19th Hole, and although some say Christopher Christie Tick Funari of the Lucchese crime family ran the 19th hole. Who cares? Yeah. And he also ran the Village Inn, Strollo did. Damn, this dude's pretty successful.
Yeah. 1957, Strollo assisted Genovese in planning an assassination attempt on old Frankie Costello.
Yeah.
On the day of the Moida attempt, Strollo met with Costello in the late afternoon and learned his itinerary for the evening. So, what are you planning on doing the rest of the night? Well, got a couple pickups. Probably going to stop and have me a pasta and some gravy.
Some gabagool.
And I'm going to meet my Gumar. Strollo then passed the information on to Genovese's hitman. When old Frankie was walking to the elevator in his lobby of his Manhattan apartment, he was shot in the head by Genovese gunman Vincent Gigante. Gigante, though, tipped off Costello by yelling, "This is for you, Frank," prior to pulling the trigger.
Well, Costello reacted to the scream by turning his head slightly, causing the bullet to graze his head.
Ooh.
He fell to the ground, and Gigante fled, thinking he'd murdered him.
Right.
Costello survived, but immediately stepped down his boss. He said, "Screw this."
Oh, shit. They can just come in and do that. Where's the bellman?
Right. Well, if you remember in the Vito or the Costello episode, the bellman said it was Gigante.
Right.
But then Costello was like, I don't know who it was.
Right.
Genovese now runs what is today known as the Genovese crime family. He said, I got it. Well, meanwhile, old Strollo, December 17, 1952, was summoned to testify at the New York State Crime Commission hearings. He was an uncooperative witness,
of course,
claiming either a bad memory or refusing to testify based on his Fifth Amendment right under the Constitution against self-incrimination. I plead the Fifth.
It's there for a reason. The year is 1959. Strollo continued to set up moitas for Genovese. One day he learned that Vito had marked his best friend, old little Augie Pisano, for moita. And Vito originally decided not to involve Strollo, but Strollo cheerfully volunteered to set up the hit. He does whatever's best for business.
Right.
He arranged dinner with Little Augie at a Manhattan restaurant, while gunmen took up positions in Little Augie's car to kill him after he left. Throughout the years, Genovese used murder to take what he needed and created several enemies as he did. And a lot of them didn't like to do the murder things right away in the beginning, you know. You get the warnings and the beatings and stuff like that. This guy was just take him out. He looked at me wrong. Shoot him. Eventually, a conspiracy grew to finally end Genovese's ruthless pursuit to the top of the Mafia Commission, and it included his most trusted confidant, Anthony Strollo himself.
Mm-hmm. Well, that secret meeting was held with Gambino boss Carlo Gambino, Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, and Lucky Luciano, who hatched a plan to use Genovese's drug trafficking as a way to end his reign.
Frank stayed in as like as an earpiece for all these guys. Get a little advice with,
Right. Well, Strollo, being the man who switches sides, aligned himself with the men and helped with the setup.
This dude just trying to stay alive.
Well, ain't gonna work. 1959, Genovese was sent to prison for 15 years on narcotics trafficking charges, although he still controlled the family from the inside, so it didn't work there, Lucky. While inside, Genovese tried to figure out how he was caught and suspected he was set up, though he wasn't sure by who at this point.
Right. Somebody. At some point, Vito seemed to figure out that Strollo was involved. He was like, no. He remembered shortly before he got busted that Strollo had told him to give himself up because he would likely only get a short sentence. So might as well just go, bud. Just get it over with, man. It was this knowledge that convinced Vito that Strollo was part of the plot. As boss of the family, Vito had the means to have Strollo moited, and he put the wheels in motion. On the morning of 8th of April, 1962, Strollo left his home with his wife telling him, "You better put on your top coat. It's chilly." And Strollo mumbled, "I'm only going out for a few minutes." He walked down the sidewalk from his home and was never seen from again. His remains never, ever recovered to sit next to Hoffa's.
Right.
And no one was ever charged with his disappearance. How could you? When government witness Joseph Vellecci later visited Genovese in prison, Vito allegedly hinted at the responsibility for Strollo's moita.
Hinted.
Right.
Well, this is from an article from the New York Times on January 8th, 1970. They say, according to the transcript of underworld conversations overheard and recorded by the FBI, Ruggiero, Richie the Boot Boiardo, a reputed high-ranking mafioso in New Jersey, sought to give the impression that he alone was responsible for the death of Anthony Tony Bender Strollo. It has been widely believed, and appears to be confirmed in the transcript, that Strollo, a major New Jersey mafia figure, who vanished in 1962, was killed on orders of Vito Genovese, the late mafia boss of all bosses.
He wasn't, though.
He was.
He wasn't, though.
Yeah, he was.
Strollo was said to have controlled the underworld's bar and nightclub operations on New York's east side, and also in Greenwich Village. His fate has been a matter of conjecture since he walked out of his Fort Lee mansion in early April of 1962, and he disappeared into thin air, never to be seen from again. His body, as we said, never been found. They still took care of the family, you know, right? I bet.
Doubt it.
Yeah. Come by and drop off money every month.
Doubt it.
Yeah, it happens. Possible light on the mystery was shed in the conversation. It was monitored by the FBI, included the transcript between Angelo DiCarlo and Anthony Little Pussy Russo. They're both reputed captains in the Genovese Mafia family, now headed by Gerardo Jerry de Cantina. So they call him Jerry Cantina, huh? The talk, overheard in 1963, was kept secret by the FBI until federal judge Robert Shaw in Newark ordered on Tuesday that all electronic surveillance of DiCarlo and the 3 co-defendants in a loan shark extortion trial is made public.
Well, the transcript of this material, which is 1,200 pages of bugged conversations made by the FBI, are unsworn, hearsay documents, and as such do not constitute evidence.
Right.
How they hearsay when they're saying it?
Right.
I heard him say it. In the 1963 conversation, Russo related an alleged earlier talk he had with Boiardo and Sam Momo Giancana, who was then the mafia boss in Chicago. According to the FBI report, Giancana, teasing the 79-year-old Boiardo about keeping Russo in an important role, asked whom he had ever killed.
Ooh. Well, at this very point, Russo's conversation with DiCarlo, as Russo recollected the earlier talk, is presented in the FBI transcript as follows. Russo, what is he learning? Has he killed any? Boiardo said, yeah, he killed Tony Bender. I said, Mooney, please don't get me involved. And then Giancana said, why? Are you yellow? And then DiCarlo said, don't Giancana know it was Vito's orders to kill him? And Russo says, I thought of that too. DiCarlo says, when you got Tony? Russo says, yeah. DiCarlo appeared to question that one of Giancana's associates, who was in jail with Vito at the time, would not have known that the order to kill Bender was given, and so notified Giancana.
Oh, he just now told Giancana that he wouldn't have known. Giancana's associates wouldn't have known that the order to kill Bender was given, and so now he's telling Giancana that.
Right, and then Russo says the boot didn't even mention Vito's name. Apparently, Boiardo tried to give the impression that he alone was responsible for Bender's death.
Wow, so is he lying or what? All right, that brings us to our second subject of this episode, since these guys who are supposedly major crime bosses and parts of the biggest mafia family that existed, you can't find any information on these guys online. So,
as it should be for mafias.
I guess so. Anthony Strollo was our first guy, and we'll cover a person closely associated with him, Tommy Ryan Eboli. Well, he was born in Sciacciano in the province of Naples, Italy in 1911 to Louis Eboli, and Madalena Maddalone. He stood 5'10", weighed 165 pounds, and had a tattoo on his right arm. Good for you, Eboli. Eboli was the brother of Genovese crime family Capo Pasquale Paddy Ryan Eboli. All right, look at that. To hide his Italian heritage, Eboli adopted the nickname Tommy Ryan from professional boxer Tommy Ryan. Eboli became a U.S. citizen August 27, 1960. Damn.
All right.
Why are they trying to hide their Italian name?
Cuz.
Pusses.
Cuz. Eboli was married to Anna Areola from Melrose Park, Illinois. Their children were Thomas Eboli Jr. And Chicago outfit mobster Louis the Mooch Eboli.
Damn, look at this guy.
Eboli. Louis the Mooch, huh? The Mooch died in 1987 from cancer at the age of 52.
Poor guy.
After separating from Areola, Eboli entered a relationship with Mary Perello. They had 2 daughters, Madalena and Mary, and a son named Salverio. Eboli also had 2 daughters, Roseanne and Joanne, from when he was together with Helen Nagy of Jackson Heights.
Jeez.
Eboli and his third family lived in a high-rise apartment building in Fort Lee, New Jersey, that overlooked the Hudson River. Ew. However, Just before his very own death, Eboli had purchased a home in Fair Lawn, New Jersey.
Good to hear. Good for him. As a young man, Eboli worked as a professional boxer.
Hey.
Early 1920s, during Prohibition, he became a bootlegger for future crime boss Lucky Luciano.
I bet he did.
By the early 30s, Eboli had become the personal bodyguard for Luciano's underboss, Vito Genovese. Personal bodyguard, huh?
Nice.
Some sources claim that Eboli committed as many as 20 murders for the Genovese family.
I bet he did.
1933, he was arrested on 6 counts of illegal gambling and disorderly conduct.
Oh, poor drunk guy.
Well, I don't think he was drunk. Clearly resisted arrest, right?
Most likely. When Lucky was deported to Sicily in 1946, couriers carried money to him and kept him apprised of what was going on back in New York City. Tommy Eboli and his younger bro, Pasquale, or Pat, made several of these trips. Lucky admired Pat, but did not like or trust Tommy because of his close relationship with Genovese.
Right.
Whom Luciano despised.
And he did.
According to Luciano, in 1956, Tommy visited him to get his vote on whether or not to allow Frank Costello to retire as head of the family. Even though the commission approved it, Genovese was concerned about Costello's influence and wanted to murder him still. Now, Costello was a good influence because everybody still went and talked to him afterwards, tried to get his advice. So, piss on you,
That's why Genovese didn't like him. At some point during the 30s or 40s, Eboli became a boxing manager. One of his early boxing proteges was future Genovese family crime boss Vincent Gigante. Yeah. On January 11, 1952, Eboli assaulted 2 officials during a professional boxing match at Madison Square Garden.
Oh.
On that evening, he was managing middleweight boxer Rocky Castellani, who was fighting Ernie the Rock Durando.
Dang.
After Durando knocked down Castellani in the 6th and 7th rounds, referee Ray Miller stopped the fight and awarded a technical knockout victory to Durando.
I mean, you can't just get knocked out every damn round.
Right.
You got to call at some point, even back then. At that very point, an enraged Eboli entered the boxing ring and punched Miller in the face. Later, in Castellani's dressing room, Eboli kicked Al Whale, the boxing promoter.
Jeez, dude.
Sports writers later speculated that Eboli had expected his fighter to win due to an illegal arrangement with Whale. Oh.
He thought Durando or whatever was going to take a dive, huh?
Didn't happen, huh? January 23rd, 1952, Eboli was indicted on 2 counts of assault from the boxing incident. 26th of May, 1952, Eboli pled guilty to reduced charges and was later sentenced to 60 days in prison. His only incarceration during a life of crime.
Only time he ever went to prison was 60 days for kicking and punching somebody. Dude.
Damn, that's a smart dude there.
Right.
New York State Athletic Commission also banned Eboli from boxing for life.
Yeah, I bet they did.
And just in New York.
Yeah, in the 30s and 40s, it was a hotbed of boxing.
It's true.
1957, Genovese finally became boss, and Eboli became the Capo regime over the old Greenwich Village crew.
Okay.
Eboli was said to own several tourist nightclubs and gay bars in Midtown Manhattan and Lower Manhattan. I thought I didn't like the gays.
Hey.
Eboli also controlled rackets on the Hudson River docks in Manhattan. He was also the owner of Jet Music Corporation, which was his jukebox supplier. Okay.
Oh, sweet.
And Tryon cigarette vending servicing.
Damn.
April 17, 1959, Genovese was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison, leaving Eboli as acting boss of the family.
Look at that shit. Look at this guy. Just stick around. Good things come for you, bud.
Right.
Gerardo Jerry Cattina became underboss. Michelle Big Mike Miranda became consigliere. Anthony Tony Bender Strollo became Eboli's top aide.
Which we obviously just covered him.
Some authors claim that for the next 10 years, family decisions were made collectively by a committee ruling panel, which I kind of believe, that included Eboli, Cattina, and Capo Philip Lombardo. Other authors stated that Miranda, not Lombardo, was the third member of this panel.
Cattina, Miranda, and Lombardo will be our next episode. All 3 of those guys. Because none of them have stories. Especially Philip Lombardo, who was the boss for 15 years. Like head boss.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah. Ridiculous.
September 22, 1966. Eboli and 12 other mobsters were arrested in a private dining room at the La Stella restaurant in Queens. Among those arrested for consorting with known criminals, each other, right?
Yeah, they were all,
right.
Yeah.
They were, it was Eboli, Gambino, Carlos Marcelo, Santo Traficante, Joe Colombo, Agnello Della Croce, and Mike Miranda. The men were strip searched, fingerprinted, photographed, and then held as material witnesses. Material
witnesses.
I am a material witness. Described as hot-headed and possessing a fiery temper. Eboli was not a popular boss. He did little to strengthen the family and did even less to support his underlings. You can't do that.
Yeah. Well, February 14th, fast forward, 1969, Genovese died of natural causes in prison, leaving the Genovese family hierarchy in turmoil.
Yeah.
Eboli was the logical successor, but his health had deteriorated that year, plus he was under investigation.
Right.
July 28, 1969, he suffered his third heart attack of that year.
Dang.
He was rushed to New York University Medical Center in Manhattan, where he eventually recovered. His previous heart attack occurred only on July 17th.
Damn.
2 days after appearing before the New Jersey State Investigation Committee in hearings on organized crime. His first one was in February of 1969 at the New York State Investigation Commission hearing. However, both law enforcement and other mobsters believed that he had faked some of these heart attacks to get out of being there.
Makes
Probably
sense.
what happened.
That makes sense. Well, after old Genovese's death, Katina became the new official boss of the Genovese crime family. However, though, Katina was indicted and jailed in 1970. With the Katina gone, Eboli now became the official boss of the Genovese crime family. However,
There's another however.
Lombardo and Miranda were really in charge, and Eboli was just a front for law enforcement. Makes sense. Eboli continued as the front boss of the family for the next 2 years. However, Eboli wanted to be the real head of the Genovese family. To further his advancement, Eboli borrowed $4 million from the commission chairman and head of the rival Gambino crime family, Carlo Gambino, to fund a new drug trafficking operation.
Who just borrows $4 million?
Right.
Apparently this guy. Shortly thereafter, Louis Cirillo, Eboli's partner in the transaction, was arrested and sentenced to 25 years.
Ooh-wee.
Authorities seized both the money and the drugs.
Oh, I bet they did.
When Eboli was asked to make good on the lost money invested by Gambino, he refused.
Of course he did.
Gambino and his underboss, Agnello Della Croce, right, allegedly came to Eboli to get their money back, but he did not have it.
Oh, of course not.
Gambino then allegedly ordered Eboli's murder due to lack of payment. However, it is believed that Gambino actually wanted to replace Eboli with Gambino ally Frank Funzi Thierry, and that Gambino used the drug trafficking operation to set up Eboli.
It's very possible. He wasn't a light guy.
Wow,
Anything could happen. Gee, that's a lot going on there in a little bit of time. Holy shit. July 16th, 1972, Eboli left his girlfriend's apartment in Crown Heights, Brooklyn around 1 a.m. and walked to his chauffeured Cadillac car. As Eboli sat in the parked car, a gunman in a passing truck shot him 5 times, hit him in the head and the neck, died instantly.
Jeez.
An autopsy revealed that 5 bullets hit him on the left side of his face and neck, and there were glass fragments and powder burns, which indicated he was inside an automobile as the killer stood close by and fired. Police also found glass line in the street and later in his automobile itself.
I'm assuming there was both of those. The fact that he was hit on his left side indicated he entered the back seat behind his driver, Joseph Sternfeld. However, when police located his automobile, bloodstains were found on the right front seat. Oh, really? When police arrived at the scene, Eboli's body was found lying in the middle of the sidewalk, indicating that Sternfeld may have carried him there.
Probably.
Police located the truck believed to be the escape vehicle parked in the neighborhood with its engine still running. Wow. They also impounded a stolen Plymouth found close to the scene with a .45 caliber submachine gun fitted with a silencer inside.
Jeez.
Wow.
Damn. On Monday, July 17th, 1972, Sternfeld appeared at the Foster Avenue police station in Brooklyn to answer questions. When his answers didn't support the physical evidence, police held him overnight as a material witness.
Material!
The next day, the New York Times reported that Sternfeld provided usual information about the shooting.
Or useful.
Oh, usual.
You know the usual.
He provided useful information about the shooting. This apparently came after he spent the night in an unfurnished cell and had to sleep on the floor. I mean, that would break anybody.
Right.
Despite the useful information, no one was ever arrested for the moida of Tommy Eboli.
Of course it wasn't.
Eboli was buried at the George Washington Memorial Park in Paramus, New Jersey. Aside from the Eboli family, the only attendees at the graveside were police.
Making sure his ass was in the ground.
Oh, nobody liked this dude.
Nope. Wow. I told you. Not much info on these guys, man.
That's crazy.
10 minutes.
That's the Genovese family was got to be the laughing stock of the 5 families at this point in time right here.
Definitely not.
They don't know who's running what.
Well, they know.
This is ridiculous.
This guy's a front boss. All he is to law
Genovese.
enforcement, he's the boss. But everybody knows these guys who are about to read about next week, Katina, Miranda, and Lombardo. They're the real guys behind it.
Yeah, and Genovese being in prison and almost dead. That's a joke. Yeah, this is the most.
Why is it a joke?
This guy just don't know either. This is like the runt of the 5 families, even though it's still the biggest family today.
There's 3 people we're covering next week. And I bet you the episode's barely 20 minutes. Because that's all the information there is online about these guys, dude.
What are you going to do?
Oh, it's crazy.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. Because there's really nothing on none of these guys. Hopefully the other families got something. Because at least like Gambino and Columbus, they got known for their snitches and shit. So hopefully their inner workings are a little bit more exposed. But these guys right now, especially, nobody. That's what Eboli was. He was the front boss,
all right,
which police thought, but he really wasn't.
Nope.
And that's how the Genovese crime family had barely any people that got busted.
That's true.
Crazy stuff here on the Mafia, but we'll have those 3 next week, and after that, we'll try to get Gigante. I don't know if he got really that much of a story either that's out there. But we'll dig it up and see what we can find. Hopefully we'll make an episode out of it. If not, then it'll be another one with 2 people or something. So, I don't know. We're getting there. Hopefully, like I said, the other 4 families, plus we got Chicago, Buffalo, and Detroit, and all those other families. So we got much more Mafia, and somebody's going to have a good story.
Somebody's
John Gotti, clearly. We're hinging on John Gotti.
Right.
John Gotti is our
putting all of our chips on Gotti.
John Gotti is our Gettysburg of Outlaws and Gunslingers.
It was our Wire Dirt.
Right. With that, go check out our new podcast, According to Wikipedia, where we just finished up 2 parts. 2 parts on reading about Wikipedia.
3.5 hours long.
All of it nonsense. Ridiculous. But had to start with Wikipedia somehow, and we spun on a random wheel to see what our...
you know what? Wikipedia could be even way better if they put much effort in all the articles like they did with Wikipedia.
Right.
These sons of bitches loved... They
love Wikipedia. Loves talking about Wikipedia. That's for sure.
Even the stupidest shit about Wikipedia, what nobody even knows.
Right. Who gives a shit about Linux and whatever? We spun a random wheel. Our next subject is going to be Sumer. The Empire of Sumer, which is
Sumerians, buds.
The earliest known civilization in the historical region of southern Mesopotamia, which is south central Iraq. So that should be pretty not knowledgeable. It should be knowledgeable, but it should be pretty interesting as well.
Big biblical stuff in there too.
And then obviously Battles of the American Civil War, where we are Puppy Monkey babying it up in 1863, heading to our next big battle, which is Chickamauga. And we just got done with Gettysburg. And go check us out at Bang Dang Network on YouTube. Subscribe, like, comment, ring the bell, do all that good stuff. Review, comment, everything else that engages and brings the algorithm up for us.
Do it.
Do it. We are the Mouth of Michiganders with
Bang Dang.